Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Tour Operator Growth Podcast. I'm really excited for today's episode. Today, we're diving into local partners and how they can actively promote and resell your tours. This is a huge part of the dreaming stage and the customer journey. If you've been following along, we've been breaking down the ResMark growth engine and the different ways guests first discover your tour business. We talked about SEO, paid ads, social media, but today we want to focus on something that doesn't always get talked about in marketing conversations, and that's the power of local partnerships. So today we're bringing on the one and only Josh from the Sunshine Tribe to talk to us a little bit about this. Josh, before we dive into partnerships and reselling tours, I'd love for you to start by telling us your story. Tell us a little bit about you and what got you into the tourism industry.
Yeah, well, I'll try to be succinct because I could probably waffle on for a long time. And excuse it's 5 a.m. down here, so I got a strong coffee. I'm trying to wake myself up and gather my thoughts. So hopefully it's a nice viewing experience. So what are we up to? 2026. So in 2008, I started a little tour company called Melbourne Private Tours. At the time, I had no idea why, or well, I kind of did know why. I just wanted to, it felt like a great idea to sort of be out sharing my little corner of the world with as many people as possible, and thought, how good, could life be if I just got up every day and spent time with interesting people and out in the regions and in the great outdoors, and life would look pretty peachy. So I had no idea what I was doing. I bought a van. I was really like legitimately just a man with a van, and sort of started trying to secure my first customers. So the first couple of probably the first 18 months were horrible. It was a real grind. I did a lot of pavement pounding. I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do it. And I obviously, overlooked the fact that there's about 15 different things in addition to just running tours that were required if you were going to build a successful business. The operations, customer service, guest experience, reservations, vehicle maintenance, bookkeeping. Uh, I could name 10 others, and I was pretty awful at most of them. Besides just entertaining people, so that was pretty horrible. But I had a sort of single-minded uh you know approach, and I wanted to make it work, and I knew I just had to find a way. And yeah, so fast forward probably, you know, 18 months from that time of launch, and things were getting a little traction. I doubled down on sort of the local hotel network and the support of my tourism association, and, a little bit of the corporate market for some team building experiences, and things started to move along. And it was, probably about a couple of years where I got the business to a point where I was doing about, couple of $100,000 a year, but still, it was a grind. I was working too hard. But at that point, things kind of really started to click, and through let's say 2013 through to 2015, it really sort of took off, and I ended up selling the business in 2017. And when I did, I was probably turning over about 3 million annually, and had a fleet of vehicles and a team of guides and back office, operations and general manager and reservations. And I built a really nice business, and I sold it in 2017. And what are we up to now to that? So the last 9 years, or a couple of years, I didn't really do a lot besides sort of travel with the family, which I do a lot of travel with the family these days as well. But I've sort of devoted myself to helping other tour and activity and experience business owners build their own companies, which is why I launched the Sunshine Tribe, to do just that, help others kind of achieve some of the same success that I had. And yeah, so I've got a fully fledged mentoring program for business owners of varying sizes and abilities, to help them kind of squeeze every drop they can out of their business, and grow it, have a lot of fun, make more money, and kind of realize all those dreams and ambitions they had when they started out. So that's kind of like the super quick high level overview.
Love it. So you have a really good background in tourism. You've been working in it for a long time now. Your business worked with local resellers as well. with your coaching and just your experience in the tourism industry, how many tour operators do you think are actually like dialed in when it comes to like working with resellers and actually benefiting from that relationship?
Not a hell of a lot, to be honest. I've, within my program, I've had 2 or 3 different variations of my mentoring or coaching program. I've probably had about 350 tour business owners that are either in it or have been through it over the last, let's say, 6 or 7 years. And I've probably had thousands of conversations with tour business owners, many who are, in my inner circle, many who are not. And it's fairly common. The majority of experienced business owners or tours or activities or even like accommodations or basically tourism businesses, they their focus is on driving sales or growing the business through direct channels like through their website or through OTAs, online travel agents. And most when I speak to them, they have no other sales channels besides those two. They have absolutely no idea that there's any other world that exists. And so they're really heavily focused, or they got all their eggs in those one or two baskets. And it's incredibly unhealthy as far as I'm concerned. And it's risky. And so, when I speak to a lot, even that have been going years and have got, had a level of success, I ask them, have you got an email list? And they have no idea where or how to start. They haven't been able to build a community. They don't do any email marketing or any other types of marketing. They're just running the business on hope, hoping people find them, hoping that the engines or the algorithms of OTAs do their thing, hoping that they're positioned in a more favorable way than others, that they compete with, and it's just built on hope. They've got no proactive outreach or sales strategies to grow the business through other channels. Whereas when I sold my company, I probably had about 6 to 8 really strong, consistent, well-performing sales channels, and all driving consistent, predictable bookings and inquiries. For me, that is the smart way. That's look. There's a lot of people having a huge amount of success that are doubling down and growing the business just through OTAs or just through bookings that are driven through their website. And I'm certainly not saying that's not possible, because it is. But for a smaller, less established, perhaps newer operator, um, with limited budget, then it's a lot. Yeah, you're gonna get where you want to go a hell of a lot faster by diversifying the channels through which you acquire customers, being more thoughtful, creative, and not relying on running paid ads, which can be hit and miss. You
Yeah.
can burn a lot of cash very quickly before you can get it wrong before you get it right. And certainly not to say that I would advise against it, but there has to be a holistic approach um, to growing the business. So for me, one of the key areas, not OTAs, but traditional like travel agents, travel designers, wholesalers, inbound tour operators and agencies, those with whom you actually build relationships with. That was a really key channel for me. I think I did about probably 1.2 million annually in sales through probably my top 15 to 20, let's call them agents. But there's lots of different types of agents. There's inbound
Yeah.
tour operators, there's travel wholesalers, there's small independent travel designers, travel consultants. So that was a core channel. And once you build really great partnerships, and once it's a slower grind. It moves a little more slowly, and there's a process, of obviously outreach, identifying the right partners, hitting the product manager, getting your stuff loaded and contracted, and then working with the reservations team who need to understand your product intimately so they can start pushing it and marketing and promoting it to their end customer. Which so you need to understand and build a machine out of it, like a process, so that it's not sort of ad hoc. But for me, my top 10 agents, some of them were sending me consistent, $150,000, $200,000 a year in bookings. My top 10 was probably worth about just over $1 million a year. And,
Wow.
you know, for a business that in its first couple of years probably did about 60 grand a year total revenue with one guy and one van, it can move pretty quickly. So that's like the holy grail, to have predictable revenue flowing through a really trusted network of agents. Often bookings that are coming 6 to 9 months out, that so you can plan around them, you can make intelligent business decisions, you can allocate budget knowing that you've got this almost guaranteed revenue coming through that. So that was one channel that worked beautifully for me. And in many respects, I think in tours and activities, you are in the relationship game. Like, if you build great relationships, you'll have a lot of success. So there was that. And then the hotels and accommodation providers, that was, you know I don't have the exact numbers, but I had a great network of probably 8 to 10, both front desk or concierge teams, and back office, sales and marketing and business development teams that work with incoming groups to the hotel. So that channel alone was a completely separate, standalone, and that was, probably worth about 300,000 a year in sales. The corporate market, I figured out, pretty early that as some level of interest started flowing from the local corporate market for, team events, for entertaining of international visitors to the company, of team building days, company Christmas parties, that rather than just enjoy the scraps that came to me, I could actually sort of iterate my product to speak directly to that corporate market and go double down and attract that local corporate market with a bit of an iteration to the tours and experiences I was running for international visitors. So that again was a standalone channel that I was able to grow pretty successfully. And so,
I love that.
all coupled with, direct bookings via the site, I didn't really, like back in those days, OTAs, it was a different landscape. So I didn't do a huge amount. But I think, yeah, I probably had about 7 of those types of channels. Another one was sort of partnerships with clubs, groups, societies, membership organizations, and associations that had a real kind of passion or interest in some of the niche experiences that I offered. And then I had another channel that was focused on the, like, ESL, English as a second language, like,
Hmm.
international students in Melbourne. There's a lot of
Oh,
places
interesting.
around the world that do have big international student populations, visiting friends and relatives. Okay, so that was another channel again. So having all of these different channels all driving, regular, consistent, predictable bookings and inquiries, it allowed me to grow pretty quickly.
I love this. So you're hitting the nail on the head with what I always say is having this omnipresent strategy, being holistic. You use that word. So this sounds like a dream. I'm sure that when you're coaching tour operators in the Sunshine Tribe, like, you're encouraging people why to create these partnerships, but why don't people? So why don't people create these partnerships? Is it because it's challenging? They don't know how? Like, why do you see people they're not doing
I
this?
don't know how. Yeah, they like, I could be talking right now, and let's say, I mean, you're sort of nodding along, Mickey, but if you were a tour business owner doing 90 grand a year, hustling, grinding, just hoping and praying that the bookings are going to come through the website overnight, or that are not, an OTA is going to dump a couple of bookings. It's all like this, but you'd be nodding along, going, "Hell yeah, I should do that as well." Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see that. I could do team building experiences for the corporate market. Yes, yes, yes. But they don't know where to start, or how. In the same way that they might have had the idea to work with a bunch of, let's say if you're a US based operator, and there's like a big network of DMCs, destination management companies in the US, that sell the US to the world, and their end customer are the international travel agents who use them as a ground operator. Um, to manage their clients end to end, and to build their programs together. And like, yeah, I'd love to get into their plans, but they have no idea where to start, what to say, what they're looking for, how to position what they do. And if I had a dollar for every conversation where I had an operator who, let's say, went to a trade show, and they had some great conversations or great, meetings or appointments with a bunch of either resellers, or it could have been a wedding expo with like wedding and event planners or something, and they say, Well, nothing happened. I had these great meetings. They love what I do. I sent them a follow up, didn't hear back from them, and sent them another one saying, just checking in. Didn't hear back. Sent them this, my generic out, follow up email with all my product stuff, and crickets. That didn't work. What a waste of time. Because there is so many different. You need to build a machine out of, like, let's call it partnership acquisition.
Yeah.
So, and that has a lot of touch points. So the first is, and obviously there's different types of ways that people enter your ecosystem. So it might be, just cold outreach to local partners. It could be a trade show. It could be a networking event or something like that. So obviously your initial communication it'll vary depending on where you met them, if in fact you have met them. But generally speaking, there's an initial series of outreach emails, which might be, 2, 3, or 4. I'm just giving one example, and this varies wildly, but ultimately you do need to build a machine out of your acquisition strategy. It's got to be an end-to-end acquisition strategy. So an
Yeah.
outreach is more sort of nuts and bolts, which is not like, hey, this is who we are. This is all our stuff. I'd love to work with you. Are you free for a chat? Which is generally the way most people would do it. Delete, delete, delete. So it's more like, what's in it for you? Why us? There's a lot of choice out there. And it's really like, could be more to like, no fluff, just the nuts and bolts. What's in a partnership between us? How are you going to benefit? It's all about partnership, benefit to partner. It's all about ease. It's all about giving them the confidence that you are the real deal, that you've got bandwidth, longevity, like you're a partner's dream. You're going to be around. You can deal with like capacity, and so that would be, and doing that in a really thoughtful and attention grabbing way. Having like a partner pack, which is fairly dense, but also just gives people the stuff that they need to know about you. So I could go deep into what a partner pack entails, but it's suffice to say, it's not just a tour description and a set of rates. So having a really thoughtful partner pack that sets them up for success. It could be like a digital training presentation. It obviously could be a sales deck with all the key information. It's going to be like a link to media in a way that's accessible and easy to find and easy to use. There's a lot of other elements to that, and then there's a whole series of nurture. So there are probably two different styles of communication: outreach and nurture. And nurture is just when you're going to be over, let's say 3, 4, 6 months. You're going to be in there either. Depends on the platforms and the channels you've got, but certainly in their inbox via email, potentially DM, potentially SMS. But you're creating a nurture machine that gets you in front of them week to week, regularly, consistently, without you think about what to say and when to say it all the time. And you're going to be simply warming them up over a period of time until they, like, there's no other option. You're the only viable option. And when they're having conversations about your destination, you're the only person they're talking about. So, but that can only happen by building a machine out of it. So you're not sitting there every Monday thinking, what the hell can I say to Mary from Mary's Travel? It has to be a beautifully seamless, automated
I was going to
nurture.
ask that. Okay. So you were
You know,
automating these when
yeah,
you were doing this. So this
yeah.
isn't
Well,
manually happening. Okay.
not in 2007, 8, 9, or 10,
Yep.
because I'll be the first. And if anyone's out there going, look, this sounds nice, but wow, it seems like there's a lot. It's a bit overwhelming. I am the world's biggest dinosaur when it comes to tech. I could get off my shelf here. My reservation system for the first 4 years in my business was a massive A4 diary that I hand wrote every booking into. I literally, my family and friends used to laugh at me because I just would walk around with this massive A4 diary under my arm, like day in, day out. I had it in the car with me when I was out on tour, like, taking calls and reservations. And so, yeah, it's not like I'm a, techie, genius. It's simple stuff. And the easiest way is just to get someone to show you what to do and how to do it, and then just to replicate it.
Yeah, a lot of it actually sounds like some of the stuff we've been talking about in previous episodes and previous webinars where you're marketing to the local resellers. Essentially, you're automating your messaging, you're getting in front of them repeatedly. You're not just, sending that one message hoping that you get
Yeah.
the deal. So once you've kind of set these, like gotten some partnerships, how do
Hmm.
you build that relationship with that local reseller, that agent, so that I'm sure they're getting, requests from a bunch of other people. You're not the only one. So how do you build that relationship so that they sell your tours and prioritize you more than some of the others that they're working with?
Well, that goes into the nurture. So you're sharing great moments, you're sharing guest, imagery, you're sharing obviously great feedback and testimonies. You're getting really great at capturing guest stories. You build in systems that are feeding back to, like, not from you personally, but guest stories that are getting fed back either from their hotel or from other competing hotels, or um, you know like, organizations. So it's just consistency. It's just getting in front of people. Ultimately, what you want is, like, people will open great emails. They won't, so it doesn't matter for my mind, how regularly how regular your touch points are. If you're giving people shit content, then, then they're not going to want to hear from you. But ultimately, what you want is someone, for example, a front desk manager or a hotel concierge or an executive assistant, to say, "Oh, that's that guy, Josh. Wonder what he's got to say today. He's usually got something interesting and cool to say." So that would be my answer. It's nurture, it's consistency, and it's sending them really interesting stuff. It's valuable, like, intertwined with, some great offers. Like, there's other different types of email campaigns. There's like a out and out sales campaign. Let's say if you're running a zip
Right.
line company and it's 2 months from opening, then you want to sell a crap load of annual passes, for example. So running like an SMS, email, and perhaps, direct message and social media campaign geared, like, completely towards selling a thing at a point in time is obviously, really important. But intertwining that with just offering value, sharing stories, guest experiences, observations, your story, your guest story, and just making sure you're hitting people consistently with really interesting stuff. That is going to be the thing that, um, wins your partners and drives bookings. Always focusing, like, what, like, forefront of your mind is, why you, like, it's a competitive space. There's a lot of options out there. Why would someone choose you over someone else?
Yeah, it's the
And
same type of stuff we talked about with websites recently. It's like
it's
someone's
the
going to
same.
land on your website, and it's the same concept of
Yeah,
selling your business, selling the why behind
yeah,
you, whether it's to resellers, whether it's on your website to your end
yeah.
customer. The same idea.
Yeah, it is. The difference is that, 99% of small tour business owners have a website. Well, 99, you guys would know if that's true or not, but most have a website. Most understand, how important it is to have a high converting website. Um, and I don't have these exact numbers, but let's say it would be 30% who are regularly email marketing, less probably. So it's a monstrous opportunity if you can do it right. Um, Again, same goes to socials. Like, we create, like, end to end, sales driven social media campaigns for a lot of our clients. And, you know, if I have 20 conversations about their social media strategy, 19 of them will just be posting shit for the sake of posting it, not knowing why or how, or
No
So
intention.
yeah, yeah. So they're not. And if I ask them about their social media strategies, the answers are all the same. Oh, I've got someone who's posting stuff.
I don't
Why?
know what they're
What?
posting,
Yeah,
but they're
yeah,
doing something.
yeah. What's the goal
Something's
here?
better
Look,
than nothing,
yeah,
but we don't
yeah.
wanna waste
Well,
time. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So it is. Yeah, messaging's critical, and most people avoid it because it's just it's a we gravitate towards the stuff that we find easy. Um, we can fill our days doing you know, doing stuff that you feel like is making is productive and making you feel busy and important, but we avoid the stuff that is intimidating and hard and that you don't quite know how to do and seems like it's going to be long and slow and exhausting and uncertain. So that having like an email marketing strategy would fall into that category. People will avoid it because it just They don't they don't know how to, well, first of all, grow an email list. I mean, I've got members who have come into our program who I've asked them in their intake, do you send emails or have you got an email list? And the answer is no. And then when they come in, I learned that they've got a past customer list of 15 or 20,000. And yes, there's a way to manage that list. Of course, yeah, there's you've got certain obligations, and you need to do it in a compliant way. But like, so you've got 15 or 20,000 people, many of whom are local or within a 3 or 4 hour drive, who are raving fans, love what you do, and you've never marketed to that group of people before. No.
Huge
Like you
missed opportunity. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, talking to you or talking to people like Brandon Lake, who's
Mhm.
been in these trenches, they could
Mm.
look up to you and know that you've done this and see it. I hope people will listen to this episode and hear it as an opportunity if they're not already doing it. And understand how to get started. So, Josh, once you've created these partnerships, should this be treated as a measurable growth channel? I'm going to assume yes. How do you measure it? Should it be measured like Google Ads or other, marketing avenues?
Yep, yep, absolutely. So partnerships, status of partnership, just simple stuff, conversations had, um, you know, like, engagement, marketing materials received, inquiries received, bookings. So just a simple tracking sheet just to see like who's producing, who needs more follow up, or where they are in the flow or in the pipeline. So yeah, absolutely. And then it obviously it gives you a chance to um to measure you know specific channels against other channels, because ultimately what you want to do is, I believe, you start with opportunities and channels that make sense to you, and what like, let's say you might feel like you have a tour that is an absolute no-brainer for the international market, for visiting, like international students visiting friends and relatives. And it might, and so you might double down on building partnerships with like language schools in a particular city. And because why? Because, 3 or 4 times historically you had international students or families of international students who came on one of your tours and loved it. So you thought, well, there must be more of those out there, but it might tank. Like it might get no traction, and so you might kill it because it's it doesn't bear the fruit that you anticipated it would. But then, so you just, yeah, like your business, you want to see it, I believe, somewhat as a blank canvas. And there's no rules. There's no, you get to paint the picture. And what you're really going to do is just try a bunch of stuff, test a bunch of stuff, and then just double down on what's working. And you might find that some things get traction where others don't. uh, that's fine. Like, what your ideas and thoughts are, and as a business owner, aren't often always like reflected in who you're attracting, and who really resonates with you. So, and how what you do lands with certain people is through certain channels.
Awesome. Yeah, we've talked a lot about the getting the actual partnership through this. I think you've given a lot of valuable information on the process of actually creating that partnership. To kind of wrap up, if someone listening wants to improve the reseller partnership that they already have in the next 30 days, what should they do first? Or it might even be someone that maybe they don't have any partnerships yet. Is there something that they could do like in the next 30 days that's an easy step for them to get this going, either to improve what they're doing or to just get started in general?
Yeah. So I guess building a machine out of their like their nurture, the way they manage that relationship, and some of the key things are going to be obviously some kind of let's call it like a one pager for like a reseller one pager that's got. So you want to have a consistent message to get in front of people, and you want people to say, wow, they like these guys are the real deal because they've anticipated our needs. They know, like, um through experience, what it is that is going to make it most helpful for us to work with them. So some of those things would be like a a one pager with everything a reseller would need to market and promote you. Because also, it depends on the type of reseller. You got to remember that sometimes, let's call it like a front desk manager has got a guest standing in front of them and they're saying, what should we do? And they're going to be promoting you, and they're going to be asking them direct pointed questions. But why then? What do they do? How do they do it differently? And so anything you can do to set them up for success, because you're relying on someone else to sell what you do, sometimes in high pressure circumstances. So setting them up to do that, and like a simple partner pack would involve some kind of like like marketing collateral that's going to have some great visuals. It's going to have highlights, inclusions, and some kind of a summary. So that would be one thing. Having a similar version, but that is sort of converted into a training presentation. So let's say, for example, you've got a piece of marketing material, which is your tour descriptions, and you've got, a hero image, and you've got your inclusions, highlights, and summary over 2 pages. Well, turning that into like a 10-page digital training presentation, which breaks it down into sort of bullet points with some more like high res hero imagery that someone can flick through, and then you can also then create your own training presentation. Whereas like on a like a recorded Zoom where you're actually walking someone through over let's say 3-6 minutes, or could even be shorter, your own training presentation. You can flick them the link so they've got something that you could actually pass on like a 90-second or a 3-minute training presentation they could send to a guest in their room, or they could actually walk through, like, just hit play at the front desk for 90 seconds so a guest can actually see. So things like that, having your, clear terms and conditions, and block out dates, surcharges, anything like that. So having that partner pack is that sets anyone up for success, that is critical, and anticipates any yeah buts, or any like roadblock questions. That would be probably the most important. But then kind of thinking of a initial, I mean, well, we build epic, like, partner acquisition strategies that take that run seamlessly for 3 months, from never heard of you to driving consistent bookings over a 3-month period. With, like, sometimes it obviously can move faster than that, but an orchestrated end-to-end seamless process of onboarding partners that are driving bookings over a 3-month period. And a lot of that is like, what's valuable, because what people don't want to hear from you is like, hey, just checking in, got any bookings for me? Or, hey, just following up, did you get that stuff? You need a reason to get in someone's inbox, or even, if you're going to do it in a more manual, like pavement pounding manner. But you need a reason to get in front of someone, or get into someone's inbox. That's got to be interesting, and it's got to be valuable. So just, fleshing out that, let's call it a 12-week weekly touch point that is, and it could be customer stories related. It could be just sharing a couple of great videos or images from some great guests. It could be one of the most valuable ways is if you're on tour and you could just flick your iPhone, you could pick a really charismatic um customer on the day and say, hey, it looks like you're having a great day. Would you mind just giving me a couple of minutes? Like we're going to stop at um, insert place for afternoon tea in about half an hour. Are you cool if I just flip my iPhone around for like 60 seconds? And I'm thinking what I'll ask you is like, how's the day going? What have you loved most about it? And would you be okay just to jump on a oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that, Josh. And so flicking your iPhone around, like, hey, Mary, I couldn't help but notice the smile. Like it hasn't left your face all day. Having a great day. Oh my God, it's just been amazing. Or really, yeah, awesome. I got that sense from, from looking at you. What's been the highlight? And, and like a 60, 90-second piece of video. And then, um, well, there you go. There's a day in the life of, one of my guests on tour. So just flicking that over to someone or baking that into your nurture process, that's really interesting. It's fun and it's authentic. It's not scripted. And so just little things like that. What's a really, you want to be in someone's inbox in front of someone every single week for a period of time, and then the bookings will come.
I love that, Josh. And with the iPhone, you don't get what you don't ask for. So I'm
Mm,
all for that. I tell people that all the time. This has been awesome. It really has been. It's a great
yeah,
reminder, I think, that the dreaming phase isn't just about digital marketing. It's the relationships that we're building with these local partners. They can
yeah,
be just as powerful to help us grow our booking. So,
yeah.
Josh, tell us real quick, lastly, a little bit about the Sunshine Tribe. Who's it a fit for, and how can people connect with you?
Yeah, I think the best thing is I will share a link with you just to like a 6 to 9. I think it had a 9 minute um, training video that I recorded recently, which is a little bit of value, a little bit about us, and it'll help people to if it's interesting, if it resonates, to reach out and explore how they can work with us more closely. I think it would be the best way to describe it. But yeah, I mean, it's no secret we help tour business owners, ranging from got an idea but don't know how to actually get started, right through to those that are doing 7-figure revenue but want to know how to find that next level, and helping and supporting them to scale their business, have more fun, make more money, and I guess either discover or rediscover the joy that they were looking for when they started out on this path. So what we've sort of segued a little bit in recent times into a more like done for you model, rather than in previous times where our mentoring program was more along the lines of this is what you need to do. Here's a whole bunch of really great step-by-step training videos that are going to show you how to do these particular things. Here's some examples and some templates, and this is exactly how you execute. And here's how we can support you along the journey as you learn and execute, which is amazing. But there's a huge proportion of business owners out there who are just stretched, and they
Yep.
start with a full head of steam, but get pulled in various directions into operations, or peak seasons, or just basically stretched across the board. And they start with all the right intentions, but eventually things peter out because they just don't have the bandwidth or the resources to execute. So some many do, but many don't. And I used to like get frustrated by not being able to help a certain you know proportion of our members because they just simply didn't have the bandwidth to execute. So I launched a complete done for you version of our mentoring program recently, where we create the content, we actually build the strategies, we write their sales and nurture emails, we create their social media cash campaigns, we build their referral programs, we build and strategize their partnership build and list growth um you know playbooks with outreach strategies and touch points and scheduling. We show them and actually help them to onboard a VA who they can hand over all this stuff to. So yeah, so that's the direction we've gone. And it's been really well received from people who who just want someone to do it for them rather than learn how to do it internally.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your
Yeah,
experience. I'll make sure to drop all the links in our show notes. For
yeah.
everybody listening, make sure you check out the Sunshine Tribe. I know the power of the community that Josh is building. I've seen it firsthand. And thank you all for listening to another episode of the Tour Operator Growth Podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys. It's been fun.